Hey Pokemon Masters, Toby here, and Pokemon Legends Arceus boldly goes where no Pokemon game has gone before. Oh, apart from Platinum, and now Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. We're going back to Sinnoh. But the whole idea of having two Sinnoh games being released back to back, with Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl coming out at the end of this year and then Legends Arceus coming out at the beginning of 2022, invites comparison, invites us to look at both and see the similarities and the differences. The similarities and differences in the region, in the technology, and of course in the variation of Pokemon. Let's take a little look. But Pokemon Masters, before we begin, I want to be clear about kind of what we're talking about here. It's not quite a regional variant. First revealed and released in the Alola region, we got variations of Pokemon which are closely related. A Meowth and an Alola Meowth and a Galarian Meowth, they're all still Meowth. Was there a Hoonian version of Meowth at one time? Maybe, but nowadays we just call it Skitty. The Pokemon has deviated from what Meowth was. They had a common ancestor at one time, but they've separated so much that they're now entirely different species of Pokemon. But what we're talking about in this video with ancient Pokemon from the past is we're talking about, I guess the way to think of it is you're thinking about those common ancestors. You're thinking about what the Kabutops is to maybe a Scyther, or what Tirtouga is to perhaps Squirtle. You're looking at a Pokemon from the ancient past. However, it's not been millions of years, and that's usually how long evolution takes to really see significant changes. Instead, we're looking at just a few hundred to a few thousand years, and to help me jump in and take a look at some of these incredible ancient Pokemon, I'm teaming up with my good friend, of course, Mr. Hoops and Hip Hop.
What is up, Toby? Thank you for having me on, but really, this is only half of the video. The other half is over on my channel, but luckily you don't really have to watch them in any particular order, so if you're coming over here from my channel, it's all good. You're not going to be pulling a Dialga and jumping back into the past or anything, because we are just here to talk about some cool possible alternate form Pokemon that we could see in Pokemon Legends Arceus, starting of course with Porygon, or should I say Porigami.
Okay, so the first one I want to talk about here is one you may have already seen. You may have seen on Twitter by Kaijumon, the Pokemon Porigami. And when thinking about ancient Pokemon, you think about fossils, you think about ancient golem-like Pokemon like Golurk. Who thinks to do an ancient Porygon? This artwork is so inspired, and I'm going to go in depth about it, but this artwork is so inspired, it made me want to reach out to the artist. I reached out within 24 hours of seeing this Porigami to say, hey Kaijumon, would you be interested in doing some of my ideas? And he said, of course, yes, absolutely. And so I commissioned him for some Fakemon for this video. But I also recommend that you check the links in the description and go and drop Kaijumon a follow. So yeah, doing Porygon in the ancient past. First of all, the name is just absolutely beautiful. Porygon and origami to create Porigami. It's also a great explanation as to how these geometric shapes would likely exist in the ancient past. You would see more natural shapes in ancient Sinnoh. Typically, in the natural world, we don't see harder defined edges and geometric shapes like we see with Porygon. Porygon is a product of technology. Having it made out of paper, however, is a perfect way to see these shapes in the ancient past, but it can even provide some cool story. Porigami, or Porigami, with a second I indicating that it's Porygon 2, maybe grass type like Kartana because paper's made out of trees, and maybe Porygon 2 at that point it gets the flying type because it could fold itself into a paper aeroplane or something. Perhaps this was an ancient Pokemon like Golurk, something inanimate object, an inanimate object that has been brought to life by ancient mystical powers. However, its creator decided that it was quite unhappy with Porigami and Porigami, so it crumpled it up and made it into Porigami. Again, how inspired that Kaijumon was able to create a design not only based on modern technology, but a glitch of modern technology and translate it so perfectly into this idea. Porigami because it's been scrumpled up. It was a mistake. It never should have been made. Perhaps this is how Porigami started to go extinct, because for whatever reason their creators kept crumbling them up. And then one day someone found the paper or found the design and it became the blueprints for Silphco's modern day Porygon. I absolutely adore these designs, and I'm so glad that I reached out to have some more Sinnoh ancient Pokemon done, including my next one.
And that Pokemon would be an ancient variant of Voltorb. Now, Voltorb is probably the first Pokemon who fans have wanted to see many alternate forms for, considering Voltorb is based on a Pokeball and there are so many Pokeball variants out there. With that said, Pokemon Legends Arceus is probably going to be the best opportunity that Voltorb is ever going to get a new form, and that is because of the ancient Pokeballs that we see in the reveal trailer. The reason why these give Voltorb such a good chance to get a new form is because these are ancient versions of the standard Pokeball, the same standard Pokeball that Voltorb is imitating. So if this regular Pokeball looks this way in the past, it would only stand to reason that the Voltorb of this era would also look this way. The older Pokeballs also having steam coming out of them when they catch a Pokemon translates perfectly into Voltorb's personality, because as we know, Voltorb is a very angry looking Pokemon who explodes all the time. Maybe why it explodes is because in the past, when it was imitating this ancient Pokeball, its anatomy allowed for the expulsion of steam, but in the modern day as Pokeballs evolved, it was so focused on imitating the modern Pokeball without that steam vent that its anatomy inadvertently closed off that pathway, which now causes it to explode. As if that wasn't good enough, you can even explain this form's absence in the modern day much the same way Toby did with Porigami, where it eventually died out because it was so focused on imitating the look of the Pokeball, and as we know, the Pokeballs eventually modernized over time, which in turn caused Voltorb to change its appearance into looking a little bit more like the modern Pokeball, and thus giving us the modern Voltorb we know and love today.
Now, next on this list is a Pokemon that I've actually already talked about on the channel before. It's a Pokemon that technically already exists. I'm talking, of course, about AZ's Floette. This is a variation of Floette released alongside its regular counterparts in Pokemon X and Y, but it was only ever visible in cutscenes. This is the Floette, the Eternal Flower Floette from the ancient past 3,000 years ago. When this Pokemon fell in battle, AZ built an ancient ultimate weapon to end the war and revive this Pokemon. But this Pokemon looked this way before its revival, meaning AZ's Floette was probably just a regular form of Floette that existed in the ancient past. So why don't we have it today? Would it really have evolved so drastically between then and now, and would it appear in Legends Arceus? Well, I think the likely thing is it's not so much that this variant of the Pokemon has gone extinct, but more that the flower that it lives on has gone extinct. In that whole Pokemon XY, Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire, Generation 6 era, we only saw one of these flowers outside the Cave of Origin, planted by a tree donated by AZ's Floette. Potentially, this form of flower used to exist everywhere, and all Flabébé and Floette used to find this flower and live on it. As time's gone on, the last flower gardens and groves with this kind of plant have sadly died out, meaning Floette simply grabs onto other flowers, the regular forms that we see in Pokemon X and Y. And of course, this allows for AZ's Floette to evolve into AZ's Florges, or really it's not AZ's, it's the Eternal Flower Florges. What some people won't know is that AZ's Floette was also programmed into X and Y, like with hacking devices you could get hold of it. It had a special move called Light of Ruin. Yeah, that sounds right, hang on a sec. Yeah, Light of Ruin. It also had a different stat distribution to regular Floette, meaning that this kind of was a regional variant before regional variants existed. And given that over the years we've seen Ash Greninja, Perfect Form Zygarde, and Original Color Magearna all get canonized within the games and collectible and accessible, I think it's only right that we get the Eternal Flower version of Flabébé, Floette, and then of course, Florges. In fact, there's probably lots of different flowers that existed back then. I wonder if that flower that's in Breath of the Wild, if that could make a cameo, and we could have a version of Flabébé on that. I don't know, is there any kind of flowers you'd want to see?
Well, while it's not Floette, there is another Pokemon I would very much like to see with a variant in this game, and that is Drifloon. Drifloon is a pretty iconic Sinnoh Pokemon because, you know, it kidnaps children and takes them to the afterlife, never to be seen again. You know, I think I need to go have some ice cream or pet a puppy or something like that. I'll be right back. Anyway, in addition to Drifloon being a super memorable Gen 4 Pokemon, it's also the kind of Pokemon that sits somewhere between organic and possessed. It doesn't ever mention this for Drifloon in the Pokedex, but we do know that many ghost Pokemon, like Banette for instance, are possessed objects that have inhabited their respective object as a sort of host body, and with Drifloon looking so much like a regular everyday balloon, I think something along these lines for it is pretty likely. It becomes even more likely though when you consider that Drifloon's whole thing is to resemble a balloon so it can attract children to it so it can then take them to the afterlife. So it's a very calculated Pokemon in this regard. With that said, depending on how far back this game takes place, the regular modern day balloon that Drifloon is imitating might not be around at this time, so it would make all the sense in the world that Drifloon as a ghost Pokemon would sort of shapeshift into something else that the kids of the day would also be attracted to, like a doll or something else of the like. This whole concept would honestly just be amazing to see for real, so fingers crossed that we get something similar.
Now, of course, Pokemon Masters, those are just 4 of the Fakemon Ancient Sinnoh designs that I've had done. However, there's one more. There is one more, based, of course, on the Pokemon Spiritomb. Spiritomb was locked inside the Odd Keystone 500 years ago. But what happens if this game is set older than 500 years ago? Well, you'll have to head on over to Hoops and Hip Hop's channel after leaving a like here, clicking that link in the description, and go and find out. Thank you to Hoops for joining me, and thank you all for watching, and of course, so hi Pokemon Masters.
This is Ash Ketchum. You just watched a video by Birdkeeper Toby. That makes you a Pokemon Master.
A tremendous thank you to those of you who go above and beyond to support this channel financially, including those of you who are supporting me on Patreon. And a special shout out to the big patrons of this month, JD Gottlich, Michael Hornschuch, and Matty B, as well as the Christum. Thank you.